Hey everybody, this is my second video on snowmobiles for the Homesteader. My first video was on my Polaris Y-Track, my big machine, my workhorse. That's currently in town and I'll be working on that this summer to bring her back up to snuff. I swapped it out with one of my backup machines, my little Yamaha Bravo. Now it's a totally different machine. It's much smaller power-wise and size-wise. But it's a really good little unit and I think you'll be pretty impressed with it. So let's go take a look at it quick, and then I'll just do a short recap at the end. How about that? So here we have the Yamaha Bravo. This is the last year manufacture. 2011, I think, 2010, 2011. I never know when to figure out what the dates are on those tags, but 2010, 2011. They might still be making them, but not for sale in the United States because of the EPA. Everything's got to be 4-stroke, and this is a 2-stroke motor. So they can't be sold anymore, just like 2-stroke boat motors can't be sold anymore or manufactured anymore for sale. But these machines are very, very popular. They're very lightweight. They're very efficient. They don't carry the load that the bigger machines will that we have these days. My Polaris will carry a lot more weight than this one will. This just has a little single piston 250cc motor in it, and we can take a look at that. If I can multitask my fingers right here. And there she is in all of her glory. Very simple little machine, typical centrifugal clutch operation, which is on every snowmobile that I know of. A little 4-gallon gas tank. That's not a very big gas tank, but this thing gets about 25 miles per gallon empty and with a very small load on it. So it's very, very fuel efficient as well. So if you're just got a machine that you're not using all that heavy or just want a little machine just to putt around on, you can go a long ways on a tank of gas. So we will close this. And we can take a look at our instrumentation on here. You can see that the speedometer is very, very generous at 100 miles an hour. You'll be lucky to get 40 to 45 miles an hour out of this thing. Very top end, and it probably won't be real comfortable doing it. She'll probably be screaming like crazy. This is a primer bulb, and you only use this when you're really starting it for the first time during the year. Other than that, the only thing you'll really need is the choke lever. And of course, there's the on-off and the light switch. And of course, the starter rope. This machine does not have hot grips. I don't know that it was ever offered with hot grips. But whatever machine you get, or machines you get, if it doesn't have hot grips on there, have them installed. They'll make the biggest difference on your trip that you can imagine. If you're traveling when it's, 10 degrees or below, this will make the trip much more comfortable. Just having your hands warm makes a big difference. Now the seat's in kind of bad shape, and honestly, that's my fault. When I got this machine, the seat was in pretty well perfect condition, but it had been sitting outside for a long time, 5 or 6 years without being covered. And when I sat on it this winter for the first time, it was, 15 degrees outside. It just came apart, and I felt really bad about it, but what can you do? I will be taking this seat off and taking it into town with me this summer, and I'm going to recover it. I have some vinyl that I can use and make her look all pretty again. This little compartment here, I forgot to mention. This is your oil reservoir for your 2-cycle oil, and you should always fill this every time you head out on a run, and always take extra oil with you. You don't want to run out of this stuff. If you run out of gas, you're just going to come to a stop. But if you run out of this, you'll come to a stop and never get going again. This is a little reserve gasoline tank. I don't know how big it is, maybe a gallon. I've never used it, but it's nice to know that it's there. Like I said, I always carry extra gas with me anyway. Now this machine is a long track. The track, this might not be the best angle, but the track is 136 inches long When they first started making this machine, it had a 94 or 96-inch track, something we would consider a touring track today. But they eventually settled on a 136, and that, in my opinion, was the right thing to do because you have a lot more track on the ground, which means you have more traction. Because you have such a small machine, it's nice to have as much track on the ground as you can on the snow, especially when you're going up hills and stuff. On the back of this machine, there is a rack, which is very common. It's limited to about 45 pounds, and I would say that that's very generous. I try not to put that much on there, but I do keep tools with me to help me get unstuck in case I do get stuck, which is things like uh, toe, uh, tow ropes, straps, come along, shovel, that kind of thing. You always want to be prepared to get out of a bad situation if you can. Like I said, there's not a lot to tell about this machine physically. It's just a nice little machine. Like I said, they're not very large. Someone who weighs, 300 pounds or so, and or is maybe 6'7", might not be very comfortable on this machine because it is very tiny compared to the newer machines. It's a lot like riding a midget motorcycle after you've been riding on a Harley. Switching back from the bigger machines to these, you get used to them after a while. But if you have an experience with the larger machines, this will definitely, you're going to feel a little cramped on it, to be honest with you. But you do get used to it. This machine is also only really designed to carry one person. I have seen people run these machines with people on the back and stuff like that, and you can, but I really wouldn't advise it. The suspension system just is not designed for that, and you don't want to start blowing out shocks and stuff like that and breaking springs. But that's the little machine in a nutshell. As far as basic goes, is she does not have reverse, which I have kind of mixed feelings about reverse anyway, because it can get you into just as much trouble as not. It's about a 50-50 thing. Reverse works really well in parking lots and when you're backing your machine off of a trailer and stuff like that. But in fresh snow, it'll bury you. It also does not have a 2-speed chain case, so it does not have a low range to it. So you do have to go a little bit faster with your loads because you got to keep that clutch spun out. Getting started is the worst part. Getting a load moving, in sticky snow, that's where you do the most damage to your belt. And you really don't want to start smoking your belt because it doesn't come back. Once it starts to smoke, you don't get that material back. It's gone. Which makes the next time you have to start your machine under a load, it's going to be a little bit tougher. And you should always carry a spare belt with you as well. I don't carry as heavy a load with this machine as I can with my Polaris. I try to limit it to 200 to 250 pounds, somewhere in there, including the weight of my trailer, or not my trailer, my freight sled. Not because of the flats, not because of the swamps and the lakes and the river and stuff like that. It's the hills. It just doesn't have the snort with the little 250 to get up the hills with a really big load. So you do have to work within the limitations of the machine. But if you're willing to do that, these machines are great. They're very simple, easy to maintain, no complicated electronics in there that require a computer to figure out. The newer machines are just like cars. They have all sorts of modules and sensors and computers in them. Whereas when they stop, you almost have to have a certified mechanic or a dealership to figure out what's wrong with them sometimes. Me, I'm poor, and I gotta keep things simple, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. But there she is. That's the Yamaha Bravo. If you were to get a small machine like these, I would highly recommend the Yamaha. I think they're the equal of any older Scandic or Tundra made by Skidoo. I would put this up against a smaller Arctic Cat long track as well. They're just excellent little machines. But anyway, let's go back to the house and wrap this thing up. Well, there you have it. That's the Yamaha Bravo I have. Even though it's not state-of-the-art anymore, at one time it was, and it's a real workhorse for the size it is. If you don't have, a lot of money, like me, I have basically no money most of the time, you can still get by with those older machines, and I would encourage you to look into them if that's the best you can do. Obviously, if you can take a step up, that's what you want to do, but don't let not having that big crotch rocket of a machine stop you, because it won't. The Bravo is a great machine. Other great machines from, say, the 80s and 90s and into the early 2000s that are still really low-tech, easy to work on, that would really do the job would be the Arctic Cat Jag. That comes with a bigger motor and it's a long track. Also the Cheetah, Arctic Cat Cheetah, they made that in a long track. As also, you have to remember, there's the Skidoo, the Skidoo Tundra and the Scandic. Both of those came with sort of a long track option on them. And they're both great machines. I have a small 85 Tundra that finally gave up the ghost, but it hauled a lot of stuff up here for me. It was a little machine that could. So don't let having limited funds stop you at all. There's still a lot of good options out there for you as long as you're willing to work within the means of the machine. So I hope you found this video helpful and maybe encouraging, so that you don't get stopped by saying, oh, I just can't afford this or I can't afford that. There's always a way around. Remember, back in the 70s and 80s, those were the top of the line machines, and if they worked then, they work now. You just have to kind of ease back on the size of the loads. That's all. That's just a matter of using the machine for its intended purposes. And there's still a lot of them out there running. I see older machines, older Arctic Cats and Bravos especially, on the trail all the time. They're still plugging along, doing their job. And the people that are riding them aren't ashamed to ride them at all. And I'm not ashamed of my Bravo either. But anyway, that's it. I hope you found this video informative. I'm going to ease off on the entertaining part because this is more of a nuts and bolts kind of thing, I guess. I don't think this is a great video as far as entertaining goes, but hopefully it was informative. And if you would be so kind as to give me a thumbs up down in the description area below this video, down here, that little area below this video, give me a thumbs up, maybe subscribe. I got more things coming. Spring's on the way, and things are going to be greening up here pretty soon, so I'll be making and posting more videos. And just keep on watching, hit the notification bell, and every time I have a video come up, it'll let you know. Anyway, just appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and I got to get going. I got to go and grab water from the creek. Talk to you later.